My Weird Writing Tips by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Pelot. Final words. Ouch! Words hurt. They say the pen is mightier than the sword. But to be honest, if somebody was going to attack me, I would rather they do it with a pen. My weird school books start off with the words, "My name is AJ and I hate." Every so often I get an angry email from someone who objects to the word hate and says using that word encourages hatred. One parent even tried to get the series banned from his son's school. Personally, I don't feel that the word hate encourages hatred. Hatred encourages hatred. But the point is that words can make people happy. They can make people sad, and they can also make people very angry. You may write something that you think is funny, silly, or innocent, but somebody else may be deeply offended by it. You may find that your teacher or your parents don't approve of the words or the content of what you've written. That's another reason why you should read over what you've written very carefully. You need to decide whether or not the words you've written might offend anyone, and whether or not that matters to you. Sometimes you should go ahead and use the words anyway. In the end, I decided to stick with "My name is AJ and I hate," because I thought those were the words AJ would really use. So I start the books that way, and only a few people have complained. I figured it's okay to offend a few very sensitive people if I can help millions of kids get excited about reading. Learn from the masters. One way to improve your writing is to study great writers. Tom Wolfe is a wonderful adult author who has written many great books such as The Right Stuff and The Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. I'd like to quote from his 1987 bestseller, The Bonfire of the Vanities. On the first page of the story, he wrote, "Heh heh." A few lines down, Wolfe wrote, "They go, heh heh heh, hun. That's right. Tell 'em, bro. Yo." Then a few pages later, Wolfe wrote, "Go on home. Boo. Yeah. Yo." And a little further on, he wrote, "Boo. Yeah. Yo, Goldberg." You may think I'm making fun of Tom Wolfe. I'm not. He's one of my favorite authors. As you go through school, you're going to learn the rules of grammar. Your teacher may tell you never to begin a sentence with the word "and" or end it with a preposition. You'll learn lots of other rules of the English language. I hope your teachers will also tell you that the greatest writers, artists, and musicians were not the ones who followed all the rules. They were the ones who broke them for a purpose. Being creative means doing things differently from the way they have always been done before. Following rules perfectly is easier than breaking them creatively. I would argue that it's more important to communicate an idea or message than it is to follow a bunch of rules. So go ahead, break some rules. But you have to know them first. And don't write "heh heh" because Tom Wolfe beat you to it. A story should have a beginning, a middle, and an end, but not necessarily in that order. Jean-Luc Godard. Texting as a second language. I'm going to end this book with a few words about texting. A lot of you have cell phones and use them to swap text messages with your friends and family. Obviously, it's easier to type CUL8R on that tiny keypad than is to type "see you later." It's easier to write "night" than "night." I know it's a nuisance to switch back and forth between capital and small letters when you're texting. Nobody would expect you to use perfect grammar, punctuation, spelling, and complete sentences in a quick text to tell your mom that you'll be home in 5 minutes. The problem is that a lot of kids will come to school and continue writing as if they're sending texts. They'll abbreviate all the words. They won't use punctuation. They'll avoid capital letters, or they'll write in all caps. It drives teachers crazy. I'm going to tell you something that will blow your mind. You are multilingual. Do you know what that means? It means you know more than one language. Text language and formal language. When you're in school, put the text language aside and switch to formal language. Put a capital letter at the beginning of each sentence and a period at the end. Spell every word correctly. Write complete sentences. Use commas, question marks, quotation marks, and exclamation points when they are needed. Not only will your teacher be happy, but you will be communicating your ideas clearly. If you just use your text language all the time, you're going to look like a dumbhead in school. But fortunately, you're smart enough to speak 2 languages. See? You didn't know you were so talented. I knew. Measure twice, cut once. That's a wise saying used by carpenters. It means that you should measure a piece of wood very carefully before you cut it with your saw, because after you cut it, you can't put it back together again if you made a mistake. The same can be said for texting, emailing, and posting material online. Once you hit that send button or return key, you can't take it back. If there are dumb mistakes, false information, or embarrassing content, too bad. And remember, that message you dashed off without thinking might get printed out, forwarded to a million strangers, or posted anywhere. So always read and reread your messages, preferably out loud, before you send them. Proofread carefully to see if you any words out. William Sapphire. Well, it looks like we've reached the end of this book. Before I send it to HarperCollins, I'm going to put it aside for a week or so. Then I'm going to read the book over again several times, just to make sure I corrected all my mistakes and made it as good as it could possibly be. I'm going to read it out loud and pretend I'm somebody else. Oprah, maybe. My wife Nina is going to read it too. So will my daughter Emma. They always catch a few mistakes that I missed. Finally, Andrew, my editor at HarperCollins, is going to read it. If you find any mistakes in this book after all those eyes have gone over it, heads are going to roll. It would make sense to finish with one tip that will improve your writing more than anything else. Are you ready? Okay, here it is. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, I'll tell you. The tip is simple. Read. If you want to be a better writer, read everything you can get your hands on. Read like crazy. Maybe someday, I hope, I'll be reading your books. That would be cool. Increase your word power. Words are the raw material of our craft. The greater your vocabulary, the more effective your writing. P.D. James.